Hello and welcome back to the Creatively Insane podcast. And I'm joined here with a very, very special guest, one of my mentors. He's a professional magician, Greg Gelb.
Hey everyone, pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Anytime, anytime. So today we're going to be talking about all things creative surrounding magic. There's a lot of creative process. It's not just practicing sleight of hand. It's a lot more than that, as you and me both know as fellow magicians. So let's just start all the way in the beginning. How did you get started in magic? Where did the whole journey and process begin?
Well, it's a great question, and only recently did I find out that where I thought I started in magic, I actually didn't start. I started
Okay.
years before. I first thought I started when I was in grade 9 or so.
So about my age.
Yes, yes. When friends of mine were at the college and I wanted to go, but I couldn't go, so I got books from the library, and that was where I started to actually learn. But when I thought, oh, let me actually ask my parents to see if we had the same story, and my mother said that my grandfather, when I was a young child, probably I wouldn't say 3, maybe around 3 or a bit younger, my grandfather used to hide my dummy in an orange. So he would take the orange out of the shell, out of its skin, and then he would put my dummy inside it, and then he would lift up the orange, and there it was. And he also, my mother said he also did was he would empty out the egg, the raw egg, and then put my dummy inside the shell. And then when I looked for my dummy, he showed me the egg, and then lift up the egg, and there would be my dummy. So that was my first taste of magic, and I think maybe that was where it actually started at that young age.
Was your grandfather also a magician, or
No?
Oh, okay.
No.
He was just one of those.
He was just a
people.
typical grandfather that would play those sorts of tricks on the grandchildren.
That sounds so nice.
Yeah.
So okay. So what was the first magic trick you did learn, or what was the trick that like kind of made you okay, cool. This is cool. Or where did you first start learning? So you said from the library at the
Yeah. But
books,
now
or-
that I think about it, I must have actually been younger. Now that I think about it, because I'm thinking of my very first magic book that I got,
Okay.
which was a gift from a friend who was actually it was probably my 9th birthday that I got a magic book. You know, everyone gets a magic book.
Yeah.
Or they get the box set with the tricks in it, and they don't actually do anything in it, or they try and then they realize it's too difficult. So I think I got a book. And I used to do some of the tricks, and I don't remember what they were. The one trick I do remember was having a string tied from my one wrist to my other wrist and having a bangle. And then I would turn around and the bangle would be on the string. So I would kind of turn around, and the bangle, when I turned back to the audience, the bangle would be on the string. So I guess that was the first trick that I remember. But the first trick I started to learn when I was actually interested in magic when I was in grade 9 was a card trick, a simple card trick.
Isn't that where we all start?
Yeah. So I think that was the beginning.
Okay, and then like, how was your life as a kid, and how did being amateur magician kind of affect your life as a child? Did you get up to anything suspicious, like knowing magic, or?
Not really, but what the magic gave me was it gave me an in at school where I could be friends with everyone, not just they're cool kids, and there's the geeks, and like
all
the cliques and stuff,
Yeah.
and what magic gave me was entry into all of those different groups. So whenever I was around, they always wanted to see tricks. They always wanted to see magic. It didn't matter what part of the school society they were a part of, but I think that magic brought down those barriers, and it just showed the kids as kids, and we got to interact as kids, and so it gave me a space to sort of to help people break those barriers, which I guess when I was in school I only thought as I'm now a cool kid.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to see magic from me, but when I look at it from an adult, I think it had a much more powerful effect as a barrier breaker, which is very powerful.
Do you think as a result of you say having this ability almost to break down these walls and cliques that separate people. Do you think learning that ability in school, do you think that really helped you kind of carry that ability through when you became older?
Looking back, I think it did. But at the time, at the time, I was doing magic as a teenager, not for those reasons. I was doing them because, I became the center of attention.
Yeah.
And I loved being the center of attention. I still enjoy being the center of attention. I always said, for my birthday, you don't have to give me anything but a microphone will be great, So you can hear my voice.
Well, I mean, here we are. So.
Yeah. Oh, this is a birthday gift. Thank you so much.
No. That's not what I mean.
So, when I was in school, I was doing it for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
And only when I got a lot older and I started to really think about what magic is about and what it does for people, what it does for me, did I start to really utilize those barrier breaking techniques. When I perform for adults, when I interact with people. So yeah.
And then I lost my train of thought. Okay, let's move on. What drew you towards like the art form of magic? So you say the attention piece was a very big part of that. Once you kind of broke away and said, okay, no, I feel like I'm doing it for the wrong reasons. Doing it for the attention isn't why I'm doing it. After that, what kind of drew you into magic? And when you started to look a bit deeper under the surface, what got you hooked to it? What kept you there?
Well, I think when I got to the stage of when I was finished school, I'd already been doing magic for 4 years, and as I mentioned, I never went to the College of Magic, so there wasn't any sort of I've got to go to school so I can learn magic, and if I don't go to school, then I don't learn magic.
Yeah.
So for me, it was I find the books and other means to learn. So I was always learning magic. I was always engaged in it, always engrossed in it, and it was just something that I did. It was never something that I made a conscious decision to kind of be, okay, now I'm going to pursue magic. And I always thought when my friends at the college would finish their 6 years, I think it is.
It's
when they finish at the end of grade 11, some of them would just stop. Actually, all of them just stopped.
I see that a lot as well.
And it was kind of just like, it was fun while it lasted, and that was it. But for me, there was never an end point. It was never, you do the 6 courses and then you're done. It was, I've read this book and now I'm going to move on to the next book. And I've got this DVD and now I'm going to get the next DVD and the next DVD. And then before I knew it, I'm in my 20s and I'm doing magic, and it just sort of happened. You know?
So it really wasn't a conscious decision of today I'm going to be a magician. It was just kind of over time.
Yeah. It just evolved as I grew up, as I grew older, as I learned about myself, as I learned about people and human beings. It just evolved with me.
And then, like, as you get older, obviously, it goes from, you get to that point as everybody does, and I think in my grade, especially next year, I got to choose my subjects. But and when you get out of matric, you need to kind of start thinking about what you're going to do. So, at what point did you do your first paid show for magic, and where you kind of started to think, damn, this could maybe even be a job for me one day?
Yeah. It's a very good question. I'm thinking about it. I don't remember when my first paid show was. I remember when I was 18. It was okay. If I'm thinking about that, my first paid show was a kid show that I did when I was 15. I was 15 and the kid was 7 or 8, and I think I charged 150 rand.
And in that time, that was like,
why, I got no idea.
Oh, okay.
I mean, at the time I never had any kid show material, so I went to a friend who went to the college and I said, I'm doing a show. I went to 2 friends actually, and they each gave me bits and pieces, and then I put something together, and that was it. But my first show as like an adult still was when I was 18. I happened to be in Israel for
Oh, okay.
my gap year, and I was learning in a school there, and one of the guys who worked in the school was having a birthday party. I don't know how old he was back then, maybe a 30th, and he said, "Why don't I come and do a show?" And they paid me 150 shekels, which was times by 4, so that was 600 rand.
Yeah.
Paid me 600 rand, and I did a show. And I remember I did a trick from Banachek, who is a world famous mentalist, and I completely botched the trick up. And the whole show was very average, subpar. And then I started doing close-up magic, and they said, "Oh, you should have just done this," which made me feel really great. So that was probably one of my earlier paid shows.
Okay, that's good. So what did you do in that moment when you kind of realized, like, oh no, this trick is going nowhere, it's not gonna work? Or
Well, I didn't actually know until it was too late. The whole thing was that someone has a bottle cap, and they're holding it. They're two people, and one of them has the bottle cap, and by asking them a series of questions, I could figure out which one had the bottle cap.
yeah.
Well, I thought I could.
Not really.
And then when I said to the person, I said, "You have the bottle cap. Open your hand." And then they opened the hand. There was nothing. And the other person opened up their hand. I couldn't really save myself.
Yeah.
But there was a time when a trick was going wrong, and I realized before actually doing the trick, but it was also another a complete mistake. Was I was doing a talent show, and there were about 1,000 kids, ages from grade 3 up to matric, and then the counselors. It was part of a camp.
Oh, okay.
And I called up 2 people to come and help me, and I was going to do a trick where cards from the one person jumped from cards from the other person, and I'd set up the decks in the way that they were supposed to be set up, and I was dealing with the one spectator, and the other one took out his pack of cards that were in a particular order without me seeing, without even thinking about it. He started to shuffle the cards. And I didn't know that what he was doing, so I said I did the whole thing with the one person, right? And I did the whole spiel with that, and then I moved to the next person. When I started to fan through the cards, I noticed that the cards were not in the order that I put them in.
Yeah.
And I was so young and so new, I didn't know what to do, so I just said, I took the cards and I just said, "Unfortunately, I can't carry on with the trick," and I walked off stage, which really messed me up.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I mean, in front of my peers and in front of over 1,000 people, I completely messed up. And I thought when I sat back down, I thought afterwards I have to do a trick.
Yeah.
It's like, you fall off the horse, you got to get back on the horse. So as soon as the whole talent show finished, which I was one of the end performers, I went and I did a trick, but it taught me to always have a backup. So I had another deck of cards in my pocket, and I should have just pulled out that deck of cards and did a completely different trick. But I was so young and so
in the moment,
and confused and uncertain as to what happened that I completely forgot about it. But we tangented there. Went on a tangent.
1,000 people.
Yeah.
Okay, so then what was it like? So you're now a full-time magician.
Yes.
That is your bread and butter.
My career.
So before this, you were a teacher. Yes.
Yeah, I was a teacher and the executive director of a small school in Cape Town.
So what was it like jumping? Because I think we were talking on and off a little bit during that period when you jumped from being a teacher to becoming a full-time magician. that uncertainty, like how was that, kind of not knowing, or did you know what was the experience like going into becoming a full-time magician?
So when I was teaching in the school and I was working in the school, there were a lot of opportunities that came up to do gigs that I had to turn down because I was at school. And that was very frustrating for me. But at the same time, I had a full-time job, so it was my choice. And I always knew that I was going to land up doing magic as a full-time career. I just didn't know when I was going to actually do it.
Yeah.
It was one of those things where I thought, okay, cool, It's going to happen. I'm just not entirely sure when. And then, and then in December of 2017, my father got very ill, and it was a complete shock to everyone. And I thought to myself, you know what? Life is just too short. And the beginning of the school year in January, I walked in and I said, I'm giving you my 6-month notice. I didn't need to give them 6 months, but because I'd been with the school for so long and because I created the job that I was in, it was going to take a really long time for them to find someone that could replace me. And so I gave them 6 months, and in that time I was starting to build up my brand a bit, trying to make sure that the transition from working in a school to being a full-time magician was going to be as smooth as possible for me. Yeah.
And did it end up like that? Was it a nice and smooth transition?
Yeah, it was. I mean, look, it's not easy.
Yeah, definitely.
It's not easy, and I think any type of job where you work for yourself and you've got to generate the business yourself is always going to be challenging, and it's always a constant challenge. I don't think it ever gets to a point where you don't have to work for you to get the work. You know, like sitting on your couch watching TV and all of a sudden, you know, the phone's ringing and you're just on your way to gig, or, you know, whatever it is. I think you always got to work for it. But I was very grateful that I was brought up in a way to prepare, to be able to, you know, to have the foresight to prepare, and I saved up any money that I made from gigs while I was working at the school. I put it in a bank account that I didn't touch. I kept that for when I was going full time. I kept in touch with people who I performed for before, and you know, building connections like that. So it was very planned. It wasn't just, you know, wake up on a Tuesday morning going, that's it, I'm now, you know, I'm walking out and I'm now going to do card tricks for a living. Like, it wasn't like that. In fact, people actually say, you know, oh, so you must learn it. Thousands of tricks because you do magic full time.
Yeah.
The truth is, I actually don't. I don't remember when last I learned a proper trick because I'm so busy trying to find work.
Yes.
That I don't have time to sit and learn new tricks. I just, you know, I try to find the work, and then I get the work, and I take my kit bag, and then I go. You know, and I come back, and it's finding work again.
But sometimes that can be beneficial, because I know one of the greatest magicians of all time, Di Vernon, he only used to perform like a select amount of tricks, and he could do that amazingly, you know, so he focused all his energy there. Do you feel that's kind of a philosophy you take on?
Yeah, well, it's interesting you mentioned that, because I was chatting to my mother earlier, and she said to me, you know, for people that you've performed for already, do you try and do different tricks? And I said to her, you know, if I can firstly
word vomit, just get it out.
If I can firstly remember who I've performed for, then, I mean, that's a feat in and of itself, right?
Yeah.
But I would be doing new tricks all the time, which means I'd have to be creating new material and learning new material, which means that I would really only do it maybe once or twice, and it would mean that none of the tricks that I'm doing are actually going to get enough stage time to actually be to move from tricks to pieces of art.
Yeah, okay,
right.
I see what you mean.
So they say that that an amateur magician does different tricks for the same audience, but a professional magician does the same tricks for different audiences. So I do have a set show that I do for corporates and for shows and whatnot, because it's my strongest material.
Yeah.
But if, for example, I know that I'm doing a show where my friends are going to be there, when my friends are mainly going to be there, like I did a show 2 weeks ago and they made up the majority of the audience, I still did my strong pieces, but I put in 1 or 2 new pieces so that it will keep it fresh enough for them to kind of want to come back and watch my next show, as opposed to going, oh, you know, it's the damn Rubik's Cube trick again. You know, if I have to see another Rubik's Cube trick, I'm going to scream, you know?
Yeah.
Because I have been given that feedback before from friends who you know, I love and they love me and whatever, but as a joke. And I just thought of, you know, thought that I need to keep things fresh. But I do believe that you have to have your A material that you do all the time, because then that gets strong and you pick up nuances from the audience, and you realize, you know, if I stand this way as opposed to that way, maybe it works. Whereas if you just did the trick once off if you just did a different a different magic every show, then you actually have no idea if it's good magic or if it's just if it's just luck or whatever it is. A friend of mine he has that sort of philosophy where every show he does, he's doing new material, and material is great, but he's not getting any better because he's sort of just standing at the starting line, and he does some tricks and then he moves forward, but then he goes back to the starting line again to do different tricks, and he doesn't actually get going. So
gets that master kind of.
So my advice would be to make a show and do it as often as you can, so you can get better at it, and then you can start adding in a piece here, a piece there, taking something off if you think it's done its time.
Awesome. So then, what shows are you currently doing, and what have you written that you have and that you perform often? And
so I'm not performing any public shows currently, but I have written 2 one-man shows. The first one is called Blurred Lines, which is all about blurring the line between reality and imagination, and how that line is often very, very fine. And people are so comfortable staying in their realities, they're too scared to venture out to the dark side, imagination. But the show is structured in a way where it forces people to sort of cross that line and to start wondering which side of the line they're on, and to sort of encourage them to push the boundaries a bit and achieve greatness. So that's the first one. And the second one is called Refocused, which is a show that I haven't done in a while.
I think that was the one that I came to watch at the Alexander Bar. It was quite a while ago.
I don't remember, but it was a show that was basically trying to remind the audience of what's really important in life, to refocus their attention on what's important. And that show actually was created part and parcel because of what happened with my father. That I then thought to myself, we're so often concentrating on the negatives in life, we forget to have fun, to enjoy ourselves, and to actually live life in the present. We're too busy focusing on what happened in the past and what's going to happen in the future. We forget to actually live life. So it was a very light show, lots of comedy, lots of magic. Just the sole purpose was just for people to laugh and have fun.
Yes.
And that was Refocused. So those are the 2 shows.
And do you have any plans for writing another one, putting another one on in the future? Give us a bit of a sneak peek.
I have got plans, and actually when I was in Zanzibar, I took the time. It was so terrible there. Lying on the beach, the whole day, catching a suntan, having cocktails. That was terrible. I took that time to sort of start planning my next show, which I think it's going to be a close-up show.
Ooh, okay.
In a small theater, and I think it's going to be mainly card magic.
Okay.
Which is something I've been wanting to do for a really long time, and I think it's going to be my next project to really get it going.
So you guys should all go follow at Greg Gelb on Instagram.
Yeah, Greg Gelb _magician.
_magician.
Yeah.
To keep up with everything, because I think the show's going to be amazing, and I'm excited for that. Now that I'm hearing about it,
too.
I just get
Me too. The heebie-jeebies.
What is your proudest achievement as a magician? Doing magic for so long.
The proudest achievement, I would say, firstly, going on my own as a full-time magician, getting to that point.
Because that is very difficult. I know a lot of people who want to, but kind of give it up before even trying.
Yeah. So I think that's one of my most proudest moments. The other one was when I went to Grahamstown for the first time, and I performed Blurred Lines to thankfully sold out audiences. All my shows were sold out, which was great. And I got a standing ovation for my last show, which was for me a very humbling experience, and it really solidified for me that I've got something that I need to share with the world. And when I got in my car after that show, it was the last show of that Grahamstown run for me. I phoned my wife. It was like 11 o'clock at night, and I told her, and I said to her, there's something here, and I've got to pursue it. So I think that for me was the kickoff to where I thought that, or not where I thought, where I realized that going full time was closer than I thought it would be.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really inspiring. So okay, so you've written these shows and they've been received amazingly across the board. What was your creative process when coming up with these shows? Let's focus on Blurred Lines for now because I think that's your the one you perform the most, you're most comfortable with. And I really enjoy the topic of kind of blurring that line, that people think are so far apart, but it cannot really be. What was what was going on in your head?
So, when it comes to the creative process for me, the biggest thing that I learned was that it's better to think of these things with other people as opposed to doing it alone. Which is where a producer is so vital and so important when it comes to these shows, because we come with our own ideas and our own thoughts, and having someone else there with you brings a different perspective.
Yes.
And so when I had the idea for Blurred Lines, I don't know how I came up with the idea. I didn't know that it was going to be called Blurred Lines, but I knew that I wanted to talk about reality and imagination.
Okay.
I'm very interested in psychology, and I remember when I was learning psychology at varsity, they spoke about imagination and reality quite a bit, and I thought that would be quite a nice premise for a show. But how it developed and how it became what it is today was mainly because of discussion and brainstorming with fellow magicians, and not only magicians but also other artists.
Yes, yes.
I consulted quite a bit with a friend of mine who was a stage designer.
Okay.
Yeah, it was kind of a part-time thing that she did, and she actually helped me come up with the stage for Refocused.
Oh,
Whereas
okay.
for Blurred Lines, it was more of a table, a trunk, and I had a whiteboard. That was it. But when it came to Refocused, it was an actual stage setting, which
Yes,
my friend then
yes.
helped me set that up, which then kind of led that sort of built on more and more on what I wanted to do in the show and how I was going to do it. And then there's a part in Refocused where I do a trick and I actually use the stage to help me. I'm trying to explain it without getting too long-winded, but
Yeah.
basically I do a trick with some ropes and a knot, and the knot jumps from rope to rope, and my stage it's got posters of different images, and each image is related to a trick.
Yes.
And the image that is related to the rope and the knot is the word knot, N-O-T. And then after I do the trick with the knot and I look back at the poster, I then come and I take a handkerchief and I rub over the knot, and the K forms to make it knot with a K because of the
okay,
knot,
that's so smart.
which came about because of the discussion with the set designer.
Yes.
Right, so all those aspects play a part, and basically what I do is I sit down and I just write whatever comes to mind, then I put the book away, and I also keep a book next to my bed, because often if I wake up in the night and I'm thinking about things, I come up with the most craziest ideas, and I think, okay, cool, I'm going to remember this in the morning, and then you wake up and you go, oh, flip,
Yes, yes.
I've got to remember something, but so I keep a book next to my bed, I jot down anything I can remember, and then, a lot of it just doesn't materialize.
Yeah.
But there's a few things here and there that really come through, And
It's always that one idea that
yeah,
you're looking for that just sparks everything.
And also, to get creative, I listen to some music that really, that I enjoy listening to. I listen to podcasts that, yes, the creatively insane podcasts. But I listen to podcasts to other magicians and their creative processes, and I try some of their ideas and see what comes from it. It's a little bit of freestyling, a little bit of everything.
It's a little bit of everything. Just grab around, see what works, see what doesn't.
Yeah.
You think that would be your main advice as somebody who's also trying to get more creative in anything, whether it's magic, a show, doing a business plan for a company, just like getting creative, so they just like take some things here, put it there. Even from like a magician standpoint, maybe your your creative process can work for somebody in stock
Yeah.
marketing or something like that.
I think the advice that I would give would be to say that anything can be used for the creative process. You know, it took me a long time to move out of that box that magic happens with playing cards, because that is the only thing. When I started to learn, that was what I could get my hands on, playing cards. And only about 6 years after I started to really get interested in magic did I pick up a coin, and I started to then learn some coin tricks, and then and so when I look around, I see I've got these ideas with those small checkers,
Yes, yes.
3D 3D printed, like Smarty packs and
Oh,
stuff
yes,
like
yes,
that.
those small
I've kept
groceries.
those because I've got this idea, but it's gonna come through eventually, and I'm not sure when, but it's gonna happen. So anything can be used for the creative process, and you just got to be okay with the fact that sometimes the ideas aren't going to work, and sometimes it's not going to go anywhere, and that can be quite disheartening and demotivating. But if you are open to the idea that anything can be used and creativity can happen all the time, then you will stumble upon those things that are like, hang on, this could actually work, and then it does work because you are open to it.
Okay, that's so much to take in, but it's really amazing. Yeah. I feel like we just hit our audience with something real hard. We just
well
took a
done,
breath.
Greg. Well done, Greg.
Round of applause all the way around. Wow. So now we have the creative process. We have and in between the creative process, you've created your thing, your show. Now you need to put the show on. How do you market? How do you get people to say, listen, this show is amazing, you should come watch it?
So I think that is a question that every magician, every entertainer, every person that works for themselves is trying to answer. How do I get people? How do I get people to know that I'm there?
Yes.
And for me, that is the hardest thing about doing this. When I was part-time doing it as purely as a hobby, if I didn't get a gig for 3 months, whatever, and when the gig comes, great, I'll do it, whatever you want, I'll do it fine. But now that you work for yourself, getting a gig 3 months, if it's your only income, it's a much more it's a much harder reality to accept. And so how do you get known? And I'd be lying if I said that I knew exactly what worked, because I'm still trying to figure out. And what I'm learning from talking to other people, which I think is so important. I was very worried that I was going to feel lonely.
Yeah.
Working by yourself, I've got an office down the corridor there, but it's just me. Whereas when I was working in the school, there were kids around, there were colleagues, a lot of people around. I thought that it would be very lonely.
Yes.
That was what I was told from fellow entertainers, that it becomes lonely, and sometimes it is. But I find that talking to those people that have been doing magic professionally for a lot longer than I have, I try to sort of figure out what worked and what didn't work for them, so I can only choose what worked. I can only then take from them what worked, so I can then use it for me. And what I realized is that they still don't know, with the ever-changing world of technology, they still don't know exactly how to get the people to be interested. But what I will say is, and this is what I'm doing, is that I never turn down a gig.
Okay.
Because if I turn down a gig, it means that I'm turning down the opportunity to be seen. If I'm turning down the opportunity to be seen, it means that a possible lead for a future event could be missed. And so it is painful when you do a gig at a ridiculously low price.
Yeah.
But in my head, it is so I can be seen.
Yeah, because that one low price is going to lead to that one guy that says, "Yeah, I'll pay
Hopefully.
you." Like, those opportunities are always there.
I think it's to be as present on social media as possible, and to understand which platforms of social media will will attract which types of people.
Yes.
You know, if you're looking for your CEOs and your more business focused people high up on in the food chain, I would say LinkedIn. You know, if you're looking for, you know, I'm not really sure what Instagram and social media, what the main type of person is there, but you know, LinkedIn is for those sorts of connections. And what I started doing at the beginning of the year was starting to be more active, especially on Instagram. And I've seen my Instagram grow tremendously from the beginning of the year. Around 300 followers. I've now got over 750.
And I see you also started that new thing, Film Day Friday.
Yeah, Friday Film Day.
Yeah.
Just to try and spice things up a bit.
Yeah.
You know, but when it comes to shows, I put some paid media in there. You know, so I put some sponsored posts on Facebook and Instagram, and I also try and get my network to share the content for me. You know, so a lot of my friends, I'd spam people on Instagram, which I hate when that happens to me. But but you know, you got to do what you got to do. You know, so that's how I try get word of mouth out there. But it is a very difficult question to answer, and I think everyone is different. It's also depending on your prices. You know, which is another discussion for another day, I guess.
And then, just how do you feel about TikTok? Have you heard about it?
I have heard about TikTok. I have no idea what it is. I thought you were telling me that we're running out of time. For a split second, I thought TikTok, you know, running out of time. But I don't really know. I know a colleague of mine is using it, has used it, will be using it. But I don't really, isn't it where you got like small videos?
Yeah, so it's 15 seconds to 1 minute. I feel like I'm advertising them now. 15 seconds to 1 minute clip. And what's cool about it is TikTok completely helps you make your videos, so you have like all the effects that you can use, and they buy rights for music everywhere. So you can use any song or most songs you can think of, you can use it and apply it to your video without having to pay for any rights for it. And it's really blown up lately with the youth groups and everybody. I see everybody at school and all around, people are raving about how TikTok can really be replace Instagram and start being that next big thing where a lot of people can blow up. Like I've had Instagram, just to put it in perspective, I've had Instagram for, okay, let's go with my magic Instagram. I've had it for almost 2 years now, and I've got 300 followers. On TikTok, I've had it for about, say, 2-3 months, and I also have 300 followers. So I was able to almost get the same amount of followers in a tremendously less amount of time. And a lot of marketing people are using it. So that's why I always like to get people's opinions on where they're marketing and if social media is good, if it's bad, you know, because there's always that.
Okay, I'll take a look into it. But that's interesting. Okay.
And then as we close off, I think we're going to ask what I like to ask at the end of every podcast. Why does the world need magic? What's magic's purpose? Why is it something that people should value, and why should we be giving it to people? Why is it such a special thing?
Yeah. So magic, you know, the world today is upside down. There's stuff happening, you know. Can I use the word shit?
Yeah.
Okay. There is shit everywhere, right? And what I have learned from performing magic for, I would say, over 15 years, and meeting different people, is that people need a space to let go. And a lot of people say, "Oh, magic is for children." And I know that because when I perform in the restaurant, they go, "Oh, yeah, look at this! There's a magician." Kids, watch the magician, right? And I say, "Cool kids, but you guys watch as well." Talking to the adults, and the adults go, "Wow, that was amazing!" Right? They weren't expecting that. But people think that magic is for children. I am one of those firm believers that magic is not for children. I believe that magic is for adults, but I do believe that adults need to act like children. What I mean, children, right? When a child falls, or they run, jump, climbing trees, and they fall, they get right back up again.
Yeah.
Right? They don't lie on the floor crying. They pick themselves up and they continue. They look at the world. Everything is amazing to them. They pick up a leaf, and for 10 minutes they're staring at this leaf, whereas we pick up a leaf and chuck it on the floor because it's a leaf.
It's
for
a
crying
leaf.
out
Why
loud,
do we need it?
right?
Yeah.
So I think the world needs magic because then people need that space to act like children. They need that space to have that sense of childlike wonder. That wonder that only a child has when they see something amazing, they see something new, or they see something incredible, something that could be as plain and as simple as a leaf for them. For us, is as magical for them. So what I like to do is, for however long I'm with a group of people, I like to give them that space where they can let go. They can leave all their troubles at the door. They're focusing on their phones, worrying about the next meeting and how they're going to pay this bill and then what's going to happen. But for the amount of time that I'm there with them, for a trick, 2 tricks, or an hour, however long, they can just be. They can just be present. That's it. Today we are not present as human beings. We are on our phone in meals. We're on our phone even when we're watching TV.
Yes.
Right? When you are sitting on the couch watching TV, you're on Instagram at the same time. And you're on WhatsApp talking to friends. You're not present. Whereas magic, you have to be fully engrossed.
Yes.
Right? With a musician, they can be sitting there playing. You can be sitting having a conversation while they're busy playing. You're not really, it's just in the background. Magic isn't like that. Magic forces you to be in the moment. And my purpose for doing magic is to give people that space, is to give them the ability to just dream again, and I think that the world needs that. The world needs that feeling of being able to just let go and just act like a child again.
Damn, moment of silence. That was.
But on another part, when I have a theory as to when you show someone a trick and they want to know why, they want to know
why is it done? How's it done?
How do you do it? That is, I don't think they really want to know how to do it. I think they're so uncomfortable being in the present and not knowing. As adults, we have to know everything.
Yeah.
You can just YouTube and Google everything. But when they see a piece of magic and they don't know how it's done, and that feeling of not having to worry, not just being present, it's uncomfortable because we're not used to being in that moment. So they want to get out of it. They want to try and get to that state of knowing everything and bustling, hustling, moving along onto the next thing. Which is why I think that you do your audience a disservice by telling them how the tricks are done, because they don't actually want to know. It's them trying to get out of the bubble that you've created for them, where anything is possible. And so I think people want to try and figure it out because they're uncomfortable, but we just got to be persistent and just keep them in that bubble for as long as possible.
I've heard, because this is just something I heard along the way, because obviously I'm not an adult, but as adults, you become prone to not really having so much new experience. Everything is just an extension of an experience you've had before, if you think of it like that. Driving is just an extension of riding a bicycle, and a lot of things can be looked at like that way. So as you grow older, there's less new experiences, and I think maybe magic can allow people to have a new experience that they haven't, that's nothing like anything ever. It's no extension. It's nothing like that's ever happened to them.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean that's amazing. I've never actually thought of it before. In terms of what you're saying, as everything is an extension of something that we've seen before. But people are not used to seeing magic in real life. They used to, if they've seen magic before, it's on TV.
Yeah,
it's
Dynamo, Chris Angel.
It's on YouTube. It's America's Got Talent. I mean, the amount of times I could send the clips from people.
Yes.
Of America's Got Talent, Britain's Got Talent, all those shows. That's what people are exposed to.
Yes.
And it's something completely different and refreshing when you see it live.
Yeah, to your eyes.
You see it under your nose. So I guess that's another reason why we should do it is to give adults that new experience.
Definitely. Yo, that was such an amazing and eye-opening podcast with you today and
Thank you.
interview session. I really appreciate your time, and yo, you really said some amazing things. I really hope our viewers today take away a lot, because we really appreciate you watching through, and I hope that Greg added a lot of value, because I feel like this is one of the most insightful, creatively insane podcasts we've had yet, and loads more to come, so please stay tuned. Go follow Greg. Is there anything you want to plug while you're here?
Yes, you can find me on... My website is greggelb.co.za.
I'll leave the link in the description.
As well as Instagram is greggelb_magician. Facebook, Greg Gelb Magician. I think that's all the social media I have. Yeah. Or you can email me info@greggelb.co.za. Yeah.
Perfect. And then stay tuned for the next episode coming very soon. Thank you so much to Greg, and stay well, all you creatively insane listeners.
Thank you.